waiting for you to like kick it off or something. I'm sorry. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Zoom meeting. My name is Kim Elmore, and I'm the president of the Jacksonville chapter of NOW, the National Organization for Women. And we're really happy to be co-hosting this Zoom call with Representative Nixon, with our friends from Indivisible Mandarin, and Gloria Einstein is the representative from IM tonight, and Nancy Stotts is the representative from the Beaches Activist Movement tonight. And so, thank you to these three groups, and especially for Carol for facilitating all of this. I know we all feel really overwhelmed by what's going on in our country and the world right now. And speaking for myself, I'm terrified by this vast descent into fascism. Um, I know some people might think that's hyperbole, but I don't. And the national news lately has been dreadful at best. And we're in Florida. And so, you might could argue that it's even worse for us. Um, Fortunately, we have a few warriors fighting for us in Tallahassee and around the state. We are super lucky to have Representative Angie Nixon on our side. In fact, we're so proud of her and happy to be friends with her. She is who we recognized today as our Black History Month person. And so if you're not already checking out our social media, you can see what we had to say over there on Insta and Facebook and Threads. The way things are going to go this evening, I've just have this really quick welcome and hello to everyone. And then we're going to move right into our guest speaker, who, as I've mentioned a couple times, is Rep. Nixon. And Judy Shecklin is going to do an intro to her, that for the few of you that might not know who she is. And then we're going to have some Q&A. And then at the end, we're going to do announcements and advocacy opportunities. Honestly, if you're looking for something to do, there's probably every day, multiple things you can do. Just ask Angie. She's every day somewhere doing something. So there's definitely plenty of opportunities, whether it's from the comfort of your own home or out in the streets with us. So I'm going to turn it over to Judy Shecklin, who is part of our Jax NOW leadership team, as well as BAM. And thank you again for Zooming in with us. Judy, you got to unmute.
Muted me. There I
There
am.
you go.
Okay, hi. Yes, I'm glad everybody's here tonight. We're super excited to have Rep. Nixon with us. I want to give you a quick background about Rep. Nixon, and I know many of you already know that she's a Jacksonville native, a graduate of Stanton College Prep, as well as the University of Florida. And I won't hold that against her. Angie turned her passion and love for our community into a 10-year career as a community organizer. We've seen that. And over the years, she's created a lot of events, placemaking, like the Melanin Market, which we have, been at and tabled at and had wonderful results. And a lot of these, particularly the Melanin Market, provide access to healthy food and particularly important in food deserts. And they also bring educational training activities and opportunities for small business owners to expand. They are family-friendly environments that focus on the health and well-being of the residents of our city. Angie's the former political director for the Florida Democratic Party and the executive director for a coalition of statewide progressive organizations. Most recently, and one of the things we've been really excited about, because we were lucky enough to meet there, Angie opened Cafe Resistance. And that is a welcoming community space. It's a gathering place where books, birth control, tutoring, and more are provided. She's been the very courageous state representative for House District 14 since 2020, and she tirelessly speaks out and votes against the injustices that we see in Tallahassee being passed, the legislation, and she's always standing up for our rights despite the supermajority that DeSantis has led for the past 6 years in Tallahassee. It's a really hard place to keep your sense of humor during the session. It's my great pleasure to introduce my hero, State Representative Angie Nixon. We love you, Angie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Miss Judy. Thank you all to the Women of Now and the Beaches Activists Movement, as well as Indivisible. It is great to see many of my friends on this call. I'm super excited to be here with y'all today. And so I know I was really tasked with talking a little bit about what's coming down the pipeline this legislative session. Yeah, so like let's get into it. But even before we get into it, let me back up. So, I know we all are dealing with a lot right now. We are witnessing what seems like the death of democracy in real time. But I just want to just like let people remind people, yeah, we've been here before, right? Like we cannot give up hope. And I know right now for many people, their North Star is seemingly despair, and it's gray, but we can't allow that to be our North Star, because I come from a people who, were enslaved in this country, and they actually had North Stars that they followed at the risk of getting killed because they sought freedom, right? And so our North Star right now should be hope. It should be creativity and figuring out ways in which we can pull ourselves out of this and to work to defend democracy. And so people often ask me, like, why haven't I given up? And I say it's because the blood of my ancestors who faced even worse circumstances and situations than me runs through my veins. And so their blood runs through my veins and I stand on their shoulders. And so I'm asking everyone to like not give up. Yes, grieve, get frustrated, get angry, but continue to lean into this fight. So, legislative session 2025 here in the state of Florida. As I have often stated, Project 2025 is actually Florida 2023, Florida 2024. What we are witnessing on a national level is actually some things that started here in the South, and particularly here in the state of Florida. So funny because I am the ranking member of the Education Administration Subcommittee, and today during our committee, we had our chancellor of the Department of Education come, and I was looking at one of the spreadsheets, and it said we were ranked number one in the country for something, but it was by the Heritage Foundation. And so I was like, wow, like really? Project 2025 is indeed Florida 2024 and 2023. So we were the testing ground for some of the things that rolled out these past few years and that they're trying to roll out nationally. And so like we know what it's like to work to resist and to kind of like still be here. Even though all this bad shit is happening and has happened here in the state of Florida, we're still here. So like we know how to like salvage what we got, and so we should be seen as somewhat the standard in the country. I know it doesn't seem too bright, like we've been going through a lot, but honestly like we've been weathering the storm pretty decently, right? Okay, so what is coming down the pipeline here? I'm gonna start out with some of the bad, but there's some hope as well. Um, I had a meeting a few weeks ago with the legal aid community, and they are under attack right now. They get a lot of their funding from what are called IOTA deposits, which are like they get money from law firms putting their clients' retainers and all this type of stuff in these high interest bearing accounts. And previously, before 2023, these interest accounts were like only paying out 0.01% interest and that type of stuff. In 2023, the Supreme Court changed that, and so now each year these accounts are producing like over $200 million a year, which then goes into these legal aid funds, right, to help people with rent renters' rights, right, like advocating against really bad landlords, to help veterans who need assistance, just for folks who usually make around 200% under the poverty line, or like a working class family, 62,000, less than 62,000, they can tap into these legal aid organizations and get free to low cost legal assistance. Well, the bankers are not happy that they are giving away this money, so to speak, providing them this funding at really, really high interest rates. And so they want to like knock that down. And so this is going to be bad, right? Because as we are now seeing a rise of like illegal evictions taking place, and people getting fired, just all kinds of shady stuff. That is where people have been tapping into the legal aid communities, the legal aid organizations, is where working class families have been tapping into to get the legal assistance that they need because they cannot afford, attorneys and lawyers. And so that's coming down the pipeline. And so we got to be diligent around that and really advocate in support of your Jacksonville area legal aids, in support of Three Rivers Legal Services, right? Another thing, you all saw the immigration bill that just came out. And so we're still trying to see whether or not it is going to get vetoed. They've kind of calmed down. The Republicans are basically fighting each other and fighting amongst each other. It is wild and hilarious to watch right now. And so we're just sitting back and watching, and one of the committee chairs actually got replaced and his office was moved because he voted against the speaker's immigration bill and sided with DeSantis. And so we know that Ron DeSantis is probably going to veto a lot of bills and appropriations. And also, they just came back and said, well, we're going to use like our ability to override the vetoes. And they actually overrode a previous veto last year. And so to reappropriate some funding for our House services. And so it's going to be a very interesting legislative session when it comes to the Republicans. They're going to basically eat each other alive, and you gotta love to see it, right? And so also, I know you all heard that they want to change the ballot amendment process, the citizens ballot amendment process. Basically, Governor DeSantis, because we got so close with abortion and marijuana, they basically want to chop our legs out from up under us and make it super hard for ballots to be verified or counted. And so one of the main things they want to do is force people to go into potentially force people to go into your supervisor of elections offices to actually sign a petition, and then have it turned in there. And no one's going to do that, right? And so he's just really, really making it hard, and because we came so close. And so that is something that we potentially will see moved from one of his little minions. And we're just keeping our eye out on it. I'm super excited that like that did not get put into the special session, because he wanted to put that into the special session, but they just really just focused on immigration in the special session. Another thing that I've heard, and I asked that everyone follow Jason Garcia. He is a former Tampa Bay Times reporter, I think, but now he has his own Substack called Seeking Rents. He's an investigative reporter here in the state of Florida. He has followed the legislative session for, I want to say, like 2 decades or so, and he's very, very, very good. And so follow his Substack, keep up with him, retweet or blue sky. I don't know what they call that. Whatever it is, just share all his information. But some of the things that he stated is going to come down the pipeline as well, as it relates to, is Seeking Rents. His Substack is Seeking Rents, Substack. And that is basically like a blog that people can sign up for. And so basically we may potentially seeking, SEEKING, like searching for it, but seeking. Basically he was discussing that there's a potential for them to put in a bill, or I'm not sure exactly, trying to make it so that a fetus and a zygote is considered a person, and making it so that it falls underneath the Constitution as a fetus having basic rights, and basically keeping us from being able to place it on the ballot to change the abortion via ballot petition. That's going to be devastating, and so we just need to be on the lookout for that. However, like, that is not set in stone, because again, like, they realize they don't want to overstep, because again, like 57% of people voted in support of abortion, and so we're going to see what they do around that. So that's happening. Also, some good stuff is they're seemingly they're sick of the insurance companies. Many of my colleagues who are also on the front rows, which are Republicans, they're kind of annoyed with some of the insurance companies. Basically, insurance companies here, they're supposed to only be able to make a limited amount of profit, but what we realize is they have all these other like subsidiaries, like these other entities, like, that are attached to the insurance company. So for instance, they'll have like a company that processes claims, a company that goes out and does the adjustments, a company that does this portion of the work. And so they'll name it something else, but it's really attached to that company so that they can actually make even more money and more profit. And so they may be doing some type of insurance reform around that, to kind of bring it in, right? Also, I had a conversation today with my chair. Normally we see committee bills that come out each year, that come out of the committees. So like with education, they do like this massive education bill around like all types of stuff, putting in, it'll basically be like this super package of bills, but lumped into one. According to my chair, she said that the speaker is not wanting to do that this year. He really wants to prioritize member bills. So that could be a good thing, but that can also be a bad thing. Because currently what I'm concerned with is I just recently saw the school start times bill that was filed on the Senate side was withdrawn, and I have not seen anything on the House side, and I thought that we could potentially put that in like a package, a committee bill package, but since we're not doing that, so we're waiting to see if anyone has in fact put that in drafting and if they are going to file it. Currently, right now, there's still 1,100 bills in drafting. And so everyone has not been able to file their bills. As state representatives, we are able to file 7 bills. And senators are able to file an unlimited amount of bills, but remember, each bill has to have a Senate sponsor as well as a House sponsor. And so that's where we are. I think that Speaker Perez is more friendlier for the people. He comes from Miami, and he has not been shy about pushing back against DeSantis, and saying that his willingness to return the people's house to the people. And so I am hoping that there won't be as much damage as there has been before. But you just never know. And so with that, that's kind of an update. We still like literally don't know what his priorities are. He stated that he will not tell us his priorities. When he was sworn into office as the speaker, he literally said that during his speech. He's kind of left his committee chairs in the dark around a lot of things. And so that's really where we are. And I'm sorry I can't provide as many updates. I do know as well, though, that the governor has slashed a lot of money out of the budget, which is ridiculous. And he's saying that he's going to basically add to the rainy day fund, our surplus, to make it up to $5 billion. And I'm saying we're literally in like a hurricane tsunami type situation in terms of like homelessness, in terms of the educator shortage, in terms of infrastructure needing to be rebuilt, and like we really need to work to tap into that surplus, because it's what's needed. And so I know that he has like done some things. He has zeroed out the Black business loan program, the Black small business loan program. He zeroed that out. He's cutting $100 million from basically it is the area in which organizations get money to pay utility costs. He's cutting $100 million from that. And he released some more stuff, but I have to dig into that. I haven't had a chance, but we're learning more and more about his budget. It is not people friendly. It is more business friendly. And so that is where we are. And I see there are some questions in the chat. Let me see. Is there a deadline for reps to file bills? Yes, there are. Yes, there is. I believe the deadline is like right before, if not the day of that legislative session starts in March. Gun bills being discussed. I haven't heard of any gun bills being discussed. I think someone may have filed like constitutional carry, but I don't think that I'm not sure if that'll go anywhere because there's a lot of sheriffs that are against that. Does the budget include insurance funds for community college because he killed us last time? I don't know. He just released it the other day. I haven't had a chance to deep dive, but I am going to. Do I plan to submit any bills? And if so, what specifically? Oh, of course. I'm gonna resubmit my bill on the Department of Labor, trying to establish a Department of Labor to kind of combat against wage theft. It's something that I ran, I want to say 3 or 4 years in a row. I'm gonna push that again. Someone filed my VPK bill, which is okay. But gonna try to see if we could figure out what we can do around that. Maybe do some type of pilot program for a full day worth of VPK. Sorry. Uh-oh. Also, what else am I filing? I was looking at my bills today. Looking at filing a bill around some dental waivers with like Medicaid. It's kind of complicated, but I can I can send it to you all. There was another bill I am looking at to try to ensure that IVF, it doesn't come under attack as it relates to abortion. And so making sure that folks can still get IVF and they won't like not allow that to happen. That's one. Planned Parenthood helped me craft that bill. Also trying to figure out a way in which school readiness dollars, which are basically vouchers for early childcare, trying to expand that, because too often children are starting behind because their parents can't afford childcare, but they make too much money to get on a regular voucher. And so trying to expand that to like more of a sliding scale, so that it'll open it up for more parents. And so those are a few of the bills that I'm looking at. Let's see what else we have. Can you speak about the state-supported pregnancy website that was launched up, Strong Florida Moms? I have not seen that, but it sounds as though it is the site that we pushed back against in regards to them using more dollars. We were asking, like, why are they putting more dollars to this? I think I actually did an amendment to try to carve that out. And so, yeah, they just basically want to encourage people to not go through with abortions and that type of stuff. But I would have to look into that. I haven't seen that specific site. I know that they try to send people to, those centers that convince people not to have abortions that people may think are abortion clinics, but they're really not. And so they're really, insidious with what they do. But they did ramp up the funding for those sites and those centers. I think it was a part of the bill last year. Let's see. If and when the immigration bill gets vetoed by DeSantis, do you think he'll be successful getting a harsher bill through like he wants? I think that no. I don't think he will be, because I think they have the votes to override his veto. Also, anything coming down the pipe for education that you know of, or healthcare. I actually have a meeting next week with the education chair. Her and I are really close. She is more reasonable of Republicans. She's more moderate. So I don't think anything too wild is coming down the pipelines. I think they will work to expand vouchers some more. So of course that is going to basically defund public schools a little bit more. And then in regards to healthcare, no, I am not sure exactly. How can we be, let me see, most effective in pushing our issues in the face of a GOP supermajority? I would say, and I'm just gonna be honest, don't waste your time coming to Tallahassee. Like, you all need to spread the word about what's coming down the pipeline in Tallahassee. Like, you need to spread that word, like, in your regions, because you're gonna come up here, people gonna fill up the room, and they're gonna give them 30 seconds to talk, right, during committee meetings, right? Like, when you need the time to speak to legislators are when they're home in their districts. When you go to their town halls, they don't have town halls. When they show up at different places, like, we got to start, I don't want to say ambushing them, but yeah, like, you got to start like popping up and like questioning them on the spot, and also demanding that they come to community meetings, and demanding, that they meet with their constituents and that type of stuff, right? But also like going to events that they have and like putting them on blast and asking them hard questions. And also, you all should be doing pressers in your regions, writing op-eds in your regions. Like, we have to talk to the people. We got to talk to the different non-traditional media folks, to the podcasters and the influencers, and letting them know about what's happening and how it's going to negatively impact them. Do not waste your time coming to Tallahassee. I'm just going to be honest with you. As Miss Judy stated earlier, I am the head of a statewide progressive coalition called Florida for All. Like, and I've told my partners, like, don't come to Tallahassee. Like, don't come. We'll tell you when you really need to come, but there's no point. You're gonna waste money, you're gonna leave pissed off. It's gonna cause some people to be upset and distraught and disappointed, like, why am I here? And they're gonna really not believe in the process. But at the end of the day, the process starts at home and getting people to understand their power, and that's what we need to be doing, right? So I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. But still make phone calls, send emails, that type of stuff, just to put it on record, right? But we should be, like, again, throwing up press conferences, doing that type of stuff. Yes. What are our chances with upcoming special elections? Is there anything we can do? I would say, are you saying congressional? Yeah, they gotta have people to do those seats. I would say, send money to those candidates that we support in those races. And if you can, go down there and go knock on some doors in some of those seats. That's what I would say. Is Florida doing anything to protect our information or data after the takeover of our information in the Treasury Department? Probably not. Just being honest. But, like, remember, that's federal, this is state. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on the federal level. It's wild. I read online that Governor Kitten Hills wants to raise homestead exemption. How will our cities get compensated if that happens? He doesn't care. They'll have to raise sales taxes and that type of stuff, which is a very regressive tax, which is only going to hurt lower income people. So that is probably what they'll have to do. Any anti-trans bills? Not that I have heard of just yet. How can you help seek and support legislation to protect citizens exercising their First Amendment rights in the support of candidates at polling sites, with mandatory penalties for those who seek to abridge these rights? We just gotta, how can you seek and support legislation? So it's too late regarding legislation, but I think we really gotta raise hell about what happened. So the media treats Melissa Nelson's office really nicely compared to how they did Angela Corey. We should be raising hell, particularly the folks at the beaches should be raising hell about the fact that she dropped those charges on that boy. I am frustrated because I was told that the woman who had gotten somewhat accosted or whatever said that she wasn't fearful of that young man and all the things. But it shouldn't have been just about that. It should have been about any reasonable person would have feared for their lives in that situation. And so you all should start a petition and really raise hell about that, because can you imagine if that would have been on the opposite, if that would have been flipped? like, first of all, they would have came down with the hammer, right? And like, God forbid, if it would have been a Black person that would have done that, they would not have left that site alive. And so we should be pissed off. And just the fact that they're like, he's a young kid and this and that. No, he's 18 and he had a machete, and there's no way he thought that was a joke. And so y'all are at the beach. Y'all got to get people up in arms about it. I say start a petition. I say call a press event about it and like demand like Melissa Nelson come and talk to y'all about why she dropped the charges, because y'all fear for y'all's lives if y'all go vote. I'm just saying. What are our chances with upcoming special? I think I responded to that. Jax NOW has been reaching out to all of Duval delegation meetings with them, but they are not responsive. Any ideas? Go to where they go, Miss Judy. When y'all see, y'all need to monitor their social media. And when y'all see them, like when y'all see they have different events, y'all need to go to those events. And like pop up on them. And I think they call it bird cat call. I don't know. They call it something, but like that's what y'all need to do and demand that they speak to y'all. And then also like call a press conference. We've been calling and reaching out to Representative Dean Black or Representative this person, and they're not showing up. And like just make it a news story. And the fact that they like are not talking to us. Are there any bills filed by your colleagues that you're excited about or could potentially pass committees? I'm gonna be honest, I have not. I don't know what my colleagues have filed right now, but I'm sure there are a bunch that could potentially. Yeah, I mean, they probably will be able to pass some bills, but a lot of the stuff that they allow us to pass isn't transformative. I'm just gonna be honest with you. And so I became a member of the legislature to try to help change people's lives, and they don't in a positive way. And it seems like the folks in power, it doesn't seem like the people in power don't want to change people's lives in a positive way. They only want to change them in a negative way. And so that's what we're up against. Will they allow some of my colleagues to pass some bills? Yeah. But will it be things that like really like make a real big difference? Honestly, just being honest with you, no. Are there any more questions? No one has a question? Bird dog, and I knew it was something. It's like it's called something. Y'all don't be awkward. Ask them. I'm just staring at people staring at me.
Are there any other questions? I do like that bird dogging idea, and I'm sitting here trying to think about the most effective way we could implement that. Seems like it'd probably be like social media or other that's got that fast response. Since most of us put out a newsletter once a week, that's probably not going to do it.
You actually have to go to where they have events and stuff too.
Yep.
They don't want to be seen as like ignoring their constituents, right? Can you imagine Dean Black having a meeting and you're like, or he's at a press event or something and you're there, you show up and you're like, you haven't returned our calls. Can we get a meeting? Like, when are you going to schedule a meeting with us? I just want to talk about the children. Let's talk about the babies,
Yeah.
make them look bad.
Yeah, I really like that.
What do you think DeSantis is planning for his next governor post? I don't know. I have no idea. They said he wants to run for president again. I don't know. He should have just appointed himself senator, Dave, because I think chances. I think Susie Wiles will not allow him to be president of the United States. And are there any good Democratic candidates running for governor? Do not support. Dang, we being recorded. I will say this on, I don't care. Don't support Jason Pizzo when he decides to run. And I will publicly say that we do not need to support Jason Pizzo. He has attacked progressives and he has attacked progressives and he has trashed Democrats recently. He's attacked progressives and he's trashed Democrats recently. And he cuts deals to make himself look good.
Oof.
He is a Dem. And just because you're a Dem does not mean you're a good person. And I will gladly say that. And so we can't just vote for people and support people just because they're Democrats, because we're in this mess because of that. Let's see. Isn't it too early to start identifying fundraising for? Oh, he's gonna run. Do we know why those? I gotta check out this bill in a second. Can you tell me what the bill is? Can you write down what it is? But how do we know? Do we know why those two women flipped to Republican? Yes, we do. Political ambition. I mean, just being honest with you, because they needed a trajectory to their next higher office, and in particular, I can talk more about Hillary Cosell. And so it is no secret that I call for a ceasefire in Gaza. I also call for the release of hostages and everything. And I also made mention of how, not only did Michelle Salzman request that, when I asked how many Palestinians must die, she stated that all of them must die. But then I also talked about how one of my colleagues stated that if we go through with this resolution, behind the scenes, if we go through this resolution, it will dry up all our fundraising and this and that. And they were more concerned about that. That was Hillary Cosell. Word on the street is she wants to run for Senate. She doesn't have an upward trajectory to run for Senate, so she switched parties. And so that's what happened. And then all of a sudden, her and Susan Valdez voted in support of this immigration bill, which they pushed back against before they became Republicans. And so again, as I stated before, all Democrats are not our friends. And we got to really start looking at how people vote and how people talk and posture themselves. A lot of people get upset at how open and blunt and honest I am, but I think it's because I don't care about being in office. I just care about people. And so I am going to be open and honest and talk the way I think people want to hear. And I'm going to be honest too. Folks are like, well, you gotta cut deals. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. Respectability politics is what a lot of people have been doing, and look where it's gotten us.
Right.
Look where we are now. People do not believe that people cannot tell a Democrat from a Republican. My husband even says oftentimes, y'all just two different wings on the same bird. That is a problem if you cannot tell a Democrat from a Republican. And so folks don't believe, it's mind-boggling to me that the party for working class people is now seen as elitist. but we are, because we feel like a lot of folks kind of talk down on people and all of this and that, and it's like that's how we are perceived. And so in order to change that narrative, we got to be in the streets with people, and we got to address their needs. And like, we have to be in the y'all's organizations, especially because you all are not a part of a party or whatever. Like, you all, we can't just be in a infrastructure building position, right? We got to be in a people building position. Because I'm going to be honest, and I am an organizer, so I probably will agitate people, but that is what I do, and it is out of love. But let's be honest, if my party would have won, things would not have changed. People would have still been hurting, maybe not as badly as they're about to now, but it would have still been the status quo. And so I see this as an opportunity to stop the perpetuation of people being harmed, like, through parties and infrastructure. Like, we have the opportunity to, like, rebuild something differently and for people, right, the right way. And so, like, that's why I see so much opportunity. And that's why, like, I can't give up. And I hope, like, folks are so pissed off and to the point where, like, no, this is not right, and they're starting to see, and they jump in on this fight. And so that's where I'm at with it. Hold on, let me see. Right, Miss Judy said Kim Daniels is a Democrat, exactly. I don't, hold on. I'm trying to catch up. Okay, the too early start. All right. Do we know why those two women? I just said that. Moskowitz and Skidmore want to urge Congress to establish a federal catastrophe risk pool to help spread risk and lower homeowners' premiums. That would be great. So I guess that's Skidmore. That's a House memorial. And so that it would just be urging Congress to support that. So I would love that. We shall see. I'm not sure if that will move anywhere though. General bill, hold on. Crimes evidencing prejudice expands the grounds for a reclassification of crimes to include acts based on gender. Identity of any person specifies that must occur if crime was based in a whole. Let me look into that one. Why isn't it fraud when they fundraising from Dems and betrayed them? You know, I don't know. Is Chevron Jones running for governor? I don't think so. I think he may run for another leadership position. Who is leading the Democratic Party? Nikki Fried, and some guy just got elected nationally. I don't know who it is. How can we get more young adults engaged with our work? Go talk to them. Go meet to them where they are. And invite them in or go to their things, right? And I am not sure what HB 271 is. Sorry. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Yep, Kim Martin. Got it.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, this wasn't on the agenda, but we thought we'd give Rachel Grage a few minutes to speak. She went to the special session last week, and she'll have, you know, a slightly different perspective than Rep Nixon. Angie, I don't know if you need to run, or if you can stick around for the rest of the call, but if you need to run, We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy, busy day in life. And we appreciate everything you do for us and your community every minute of every day. Okay. And then if I don't know, I can't see if Rachel's unmuted. And then after we hear from Rachel, we'll talk about upcoming events and advocacy opportunities.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Kim. I didn't actually go to the session. I just was watching it on Florida Channel. So, but anyway, it was kind of like the DeSantis called it, and then the leaders of the both chambers like gavelled in and gavelled out, which was kind of a new thing to me. But they wanted to make it their own. They didn't want to just be there, ostensibly for or because DeSantis told them to. They wanted to make it their own, and they did still introduce HB 1B and SB 2B, and they did pass both of those. So I guess they don't have to give it right to DeSantis. They can kind of sit on it for a while, which the other side of it is DeSantis is super pissed because he thinks it's not tough enough. They took power away from him to give it to got immigration power away from DeSantis, and they're giving it to the commissioner of, I think it's the commissioner of agriculture. So I'm not totally sure why that is, why they want to, kind of reestablish who's going to be in charge of immigration. But the session just kind of felt like, a way to ram through the immigration bill, bypassing normal processes that allow public input and debate. Takes away our voices and undermines, how the legislature is supposed to work. Now we're supposed to move through the process. It just kind of comes off as Trump trying to ingratiate himself, DeSantis trying to ingratiate himself with Trump, and then he's super pissed that it wasn't strong enough. But the biggest takeaway was eliminating in-state tuition waivers for undocumented students, which is terrible because these kids that came in, not by their own choice because their parents brought them, and now they're going to be punished by not getting state tuition or tuition waivers. I'm not sure which one it is. I think it was tuition waivers, but anyway, it would be more, whatever was making it more affordable for them is going to be gone. And these weren't like at the more competitive Florida institutions. It was just at the state colleges, and they, some of the pushback said that the state was going to lose money on it actually, because all the people that would have been able to go to college with the price break will not be putting any money into the state system from those colleges and uncompetitive programs. So it's actually kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. And Escamani and Alvarez and one of the Perez's did give very heartfelt, these kids worked hard for 12 or through 12th grade. They really want to be in college or in trade school and contributing to society. And now we're making it so they can't do that. Or making it really hard. And then, of course, the Republicans chimed in, well, they can apply for this and that. Well, there's, and then one of the reps said that that's really not feasible. There's not that much money in those programs. And then it's just more applications and paperwork, which, they might not have the support to do all those things that they, kind of need to navigate all those scholarships and everything. So that was the most, in my opinion anyway, the worst part of the bill. But there's also cost concerns because it's $500 billion. That the price tag of the bill, and it's kind of sketchy where that money is going to come from. The commission, I mentioned the commissioner of agriculture instead of state attorney or DeSantis. They are saying that they can't come and get kids at churches and schools for immigration enforcement purposes. So that's good. And they want to have state employees and contractors have the duty to fully cooperate with federal immigration authorities. And there was also something about if a immigrant is convicted of a capital offense, then there's a mandatory death penalty, which is awful. And there's something with the driver's license that they have to require newly naturalized citizens to update their driver's licenses with 30 days, which is somewhat unreasonable as well. At any rate, Florida's immigration laws are already among the toughest in the country. And, this was from Carol's letter. We don't need to divert additional attention and resources into this federal issue while they are not, they're certainly not calling a special session to talk about property insurance or education crisis. So anyway, that's the information that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Rachel? Thank you very much, Rachel. And
Oh, and I was going to say too that DeSantis is threatening to veto it, but like Angie said, they'll override the veto most likely. So, and he's saying that the bill is just going to be worse than it, because we're already so tough on immigration. So that I can't really speak to, but we'll have to see.
okay, so if you are like me, you feel maybe a little overwhelmed and like flinging yourself off your upstairs deck. But also maybe like getting involved in doing some advocacy and going out there and showing up and showing out. And so your first opportunity will be tomorrow. Carol's gonna put our advocacy opportunities up. And the first one, I think Gloria from Indivisible Mandarin is going to talk about. Gloria, you there?
Yes, sorry, I was having a little problem unmuting in that tiny square.
Oh, it's
All
okay.
right, yes, tomorrow, noon, be there. I, through all of yesterday's business hours and today's until 5 o'clock, I've been calling basically on the hour to Rick Scott's office in Jacksonville and frequently to his office in DC. And for a while, I could leave voicemail. After a while, the voicemail got sketchier and sketchier and finally just stopped working. In the DC office, his voicemail was full after the first 2 calls. Just after 5, someone called me back and said they can't, from the DC office, and said, oh, then the other thing that happened is in this afternoon, I couldn't even get through to the voicemail because it would just cut me off as soon as I dialed. So it's really been a mess. So we made a good faith effort to make an appointment. And so we're just going there. There's a big wide sidewalk. We can have a lot of people without blocking anything. It's a peaceful rally. A few of the people from each organization will go up and try to talk to him or talk to one of his staff. I don't know if that will happen. But the focus of this is both what Musk has done to by gaining access to our data with no constitutional authority to do that, and also to urge the senator to vote against the confirmation of Russell Vogt, which is VOUGHT, who for the Office of Management and Budget, because he's the author of Project 2025 and would use the Office of Management and Budget essentially to hollow out the agencies and create unchecked power for the president. So there's a lot of bad nominations, but that's a really crucial bad nomination that we're objecting to. So I hope people will come. And it's on, we have an RSVP link. It's both in BAM and in Indivisible Mandarin. But it's also on Mobilize under Indivisible and under the Duval Dems. So there's lots of places to tell us you're coming, but just come. And no guarantees of what will happen, except that it will be a peaceful thing, and that there are things that the senator really needs to do his job to protect us. Thank you.
Just for everybody's information, I'm going to put a link as soon as I can get to it in the chat, which has all the links to the stuff that we're talking about here. So I'll put that in the chat and send it out too.
Thank you,
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you, and thank you, Gloria. All right, so then what else is going on? Well, if you can't get enough of Angie Nixon and all of her fabulous work, the Jax NOW membership meeting for February will be at Cafe Resistance next week on Wednesday. The meeting starts at 6:30, but if you get there at 6, you'll have time to socialize and grab a cold beverage and maybe some chocolate. And we have a special guest speaker for next Wednesday. It's Miss Lydia Bell from the Britwin 300 community organization group. And they're doing some really important work to keep a gigantic morgue crematorium out of their community. So we'd love to see you there. If you haven't been to Cafe Resistance yet, it's such a cool spot. It's such a great resource for the community. We hope to see you there. You can RSVP to our chapter Gmail address, which either Carol or I can put in the chat. And then you may remember that the MLK parade was rescheduled because it was so very, very cold in Jacksonville. And so that's going to be Monday, February 17th, which is President's Day this year. And that'll be at 10:30. And there's more information about this definitely in our newsletter, but also on the MLK Parade website for Jacksonville. That same day in the evening, what's this? Okay, so that same day in the evening is another legislative overview, this time with Anna Escamani. And so you can register for that on Zoom. In my mind, the reason we're doing multiple events like this is because A, different times work for different people, and B, as the legislative crap moves along, we can always have updates. And then also, of course, Angie's experience and Rep Escamani's experience and Tracy Dave's experience, it's all, it's all a little different as they move through this environment. So Rep Escamani's virtual workshop is hosted out of her office. And then the one on Friday the 21st, that's at 11 a.m. is going to be hosted by Jax NOW and BAM again. And all of this information, if you get our newsletter, it's all in there. Or otherwise, again, email our chapter email address and we can send it to you. And then next up is Gloria again.
Okay, well, if you miss Miss Lydia Bell at the NOW meeting, she is also going to be, or was that the BAM meeting? I'm sorry, but she is going to be speaking to Indivisible Mandarin, February the 13th, along with Nancy Statz. And there's sort of a through line on this, which is the government lying to people or not giving people information, because this morgue is almost built and it was planned and started with no input from the community. And in fact, they concealed their intention. Ms. Bell's group the Metro Gardens Neighborhood Association has been a registered neighborhood group for 20 years, which means that they have rights with the city to be informed of projects in their area. And that wasn't done. She's going to tell us about, and it's been a very detailed struggle that they've been in, but she's going to tell us about that and invite all of us to go to Brentwood on Saturday, February 22nd. They're trying to have 300 people from all over town be there to see the situation and to ask that, I mean, the building's practically built, to ask that it be repurposed to a Brentwood Skills Center, which would serve the needs of the community rather than something that would affront and really bother the community. So that's the rest of this month for Indivisible Mandarin.
Thank you very much. Bam.
Angie mentioned when she was talking about, and I think Chris, I'll unmute her too, is also on the call, about potentially doing a petition to exert pressure on Elizabeth Nelson's office. Voila, here it is. I put a link to it in the chat, but certainly would encourage you to sign it. We're up to 326 names, and the plan is to do a presser and present it along with our colleagues at Duval Voting Rights Coalition, who has a organizational sign-on letter complaining about them dropping the charges next week. Chris, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to request everybody to get anybody they think that would sign this petition to give them this link. We need to get as many signatures as possible. We have 320 with our first 3 days of our individual broadcasting, but as Angie said, we need to fire up people to get them to sign. So we'd appreciate you contacting your contacts to get them to sign. You do not have to be a member of resident of Duval County or the Beaches. You do not have to contribute to change.org to submit your signature. So please broadcast this to help us out. Carol and I have both been contacted by news for Jax 4. They're pitching the story to their whoever at tomorrow morning, and if they are interested in the story, they'll be interviewing us to expand the story, so that'll give us some additional publicity.
Great, thanks, Chris. I just wanted to see if Judy wanted to say something. Judy actually had an opportunity to talk to the state's attorney's office. I know you can't. You promised not to say what the conversation was about, but I don't know if you want to say anything in general.
Well, certainly. One of the things that Melissa Nelson was very clear about is that she would be more than happy to meet with our groups. And so I think that we should pursue that because she does want to listen. And she was very clear that, she's not planning to change her mind about, issuing charges, but she would like to, to meet with us. So I think that, to my mind, would be a good step. And I told her, that there would be a lot of pushback because we know that there are so many groups right now that are involved in this. It's not just locally, it's, the NAACP in the state of Florida, All Voting is Local, State League of Women Voters, Florida for All, and of course, Common Cause, and our groups. So, this has really gotten broad support as far as, voter intimidation and also a lack of being willing to follow up, with an action like this.
Thank you.
All right, me again. So again, Jax Now meets the second Wednesday of every month, and like I said, next Wednesday we meet at Cafe Resistance for Galentine's, and to hear from Lydia Bell about the Brentwood community work. And then in March, we're meeting on March 12th at the Bookmark in Neptune Beach for Rona recommends I lost my train of thought. Rona, the owner of the bookstore, is going to recommend a bunch of books to us, as the March meeting will be Women's History Month. And so she'll recommend some books that she thinks are relevant to our group. And then they'll also be available for purchase, which I forgot to mention. We have a similar thing going on for next week. We've pulled together a Black History Month kind of recommendations reading list, and it was in our newsletter this week. And we're hoping, if you have any other suggestions to add to it, please let us know, because I'm personally always looking for a good book. And then also in March, we did an unhappy hour last year. And so this year is the second annual unhappy hour. And Jax Now did this with the League and the American Association of University Women St. Augustine chapter. It was a lot of fun. We had some great speakers. Last year we had a swag bag that we gave out to attendees, but this year we're more going to collect stuff for the community. That's going to be March 20th. It's down here in St. Augustine, which I realize is a schlep for everybody, probably but me. But we did it at Oddbirds last year. They're hosting us again this year. We have our own separate room and our own separate space. And they're making us we have an event cocktail and mocktail, and it was just a lot of fun last year. And what we learned about, though, is the point of the whole thing is we're not celebrating, but we're recognizing unequal pay. And so March 20th is about the time in the year when women are starting to make the same amount of money as men have been making all year. We're catching up. And then the other thing we're doing, Jax, now in the next month or so is, except after what Angie said, now we might be talking about this, but we're supposed to be going to Tallahassee April 1st through 3rd. And if you're interested in joining us, please let us know. We'll be speaking to our representatives who, for the most part, don't represent us, especially true for me down here in St. Augustine, St. Johns County. But again, email our chapter if you would like any additional information on any of these activities and opportunities for advocacy. And then I think we have one more slide. Yeah. Nancy?
Oops,
Whoop.
wrong Nancy, sorry.
The,
Nancy.
my host did not permit me to unmute myself. Anyway, given that, I will keep it very, very short. So we did hear from Angie about the 2 special elections. There were some questions in the chat about this. So these are the 2 spots that Matt Gaetz, may he rest in peace forever, left his post. And so that is open. And that one is Gay Valamont running in that against Jimmy Petronis. In closer to home in House District 5 or 6, that was one. And then House District 6, Josh Weil is running against Randy Fine, who is the devil personified, basically. But anyway, I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat it and say these districts are even at all. They're not. They're actually very heavily gerrymandered Republican. But the one caveat I'm going to tell you about, and look it up, in Iowa, there was a man named Mike Zimmer who won as a Democrat in an Iowa district that Trump won by 21 points. And Mike Zimmer won by almost 4 points. So that was a 25% change in that district. I'm not saying it's going to be equivalent, but we would have to move it by over 20 points for the Dem to win, because based on the numbers for the primary. But depending on how folks are feeling, this election is going to happen April 1st. I think, like Angie said, let's watch the Republicans basically fight it out, and hopefully maybe we can win. Josh is a very personable guy and has some great stuff on TikTok. So I'm personally kind of really rooting for him. I hope Gay wins also, for sure. She's a great lady. But like I say, he's the closer of the two. If anybody's interested in getting more involved, you can reach out to me. And we may be doing some postcards, right, Kim?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We may be doing some postcarding, and then also, since I'm down here in St. Johns County, and I'm on the steering committee of the Democratic Party, they were meeting with him and his team tonight in Palm Coast. And so I think I'll have more information really soon about, what we can do and what they need. I think they've gotten a lot of people contacting them as to what they can do, and they just haven't even been able to keep up with it. So hopefully this meeting tonight will help them really get some strategies in place and figure out where we can all be most effective and most helpful.
Yeah, ground game. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I do believe that's everything. I wanted to, once again, I want to thank Carol Brady, actually. She always tries to downplay what she does, but she's so awesome. She's with BAM and Jax Now. She put together the Zoom, the slides. She's recording this. It'll be available on YouTube. So if your friends happen to miss it, it'll be on YouTube. We'll let you know when. Also to Judy Shecklin for organizing, to my co-hosts, Invisible Mandarin and BAM, for always showing up and always putting in the work. It's really amazing. And also to all of you attendees. It takes the whole group of us to get anything done. And like Rep Nixon was saying, it's going to be a real slog. 2 steps, 1 step forward, 5 steps back, but we have to keep stepping. We just have to keep doing it, or otherwise that's it. We need you more than ever. Please find our groups on social media. I think as far as I know, all 3 of our newsletters, we advertise each other's events. If you're getting the BAM newsletter, you probably know what's going on with Jax Now, vice versa, Invisible Mandarin. So we try to promote each other's work because we're all working towards the same goal. And again, last but not least, thanks to Representative Nixon, because as hard as we all are working, she's working 5 times as hard. So thank you, Angie. And hope to see you next Wednesday.
Okay, I did drop in the chat, and I will send out with the recording, blah, 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 the links to all the meetings that we're talking about if you want to RSVP. So thank you.
There's someone and I can't quite see the whole thing, but someone looks like, oh, Brenda is looking to carpool to Rick Scott's tomorrow. So if anybody is going from the beaches to there, if you can get a hold of her or talk to her real quick right now on the side chat. Otherwise, thank you. And I think good night, right, Carol?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.